So I'm here with Anthony Fogle on the old BoomerCast. Free safety, 93, 96. Out of Houston, H-Town, baby. I recently got to speak with my favorite Sooner of all time, Corey Warren, the OG Deuce. He's from H-Town, too. Did you ever play against him? I know he's probably, I think he was 3-4 years ahead of you, I guess, huh?
Yeah, he was a little bit ahead of me, so I never got a chance to play against him. But I scrimmaged against Gerald Moore in high school. Uh, and from that, I played against Robert Allen. They call him Neck Roll because he used to wear the big neck roll.
Oh, nice,
Uh,
nice.
but we all kind of came together and headed up I-45, then I-35, and went to OU. And it almost felt like there was like a reunion when I got there in '93 because there were so many guys that I either played against or whatever the case may be that, it almost seemed like there was family up there before I even got there.
Nice, man. Nice. That's that's like the University of Oklahoma is just it's just something different about it, man. It's just no matter what is going on, like the probation stuff was going on, and then after that, they were trying to climb up out of the basement or whatever they want to call it. But you guys always stuck together, man, and like you guys played a big part in like shaping me into the man that I am today. Because like my dad worked a lot, and so when he wasn't around, I didn't have really anybody. But I had the Oklahoma Sooners, man, and you guys always played hard, gave it everything you had, like never gave up, and just taught me that valuable lesson to never give up, man.
Oh, no doubt.
And then so you played in NFL for the Packers and the Jets, was it?
Yep. And then left there and went up to Canada for a year in Edmonton. And then I actually came back to Oklahoma for that first, I think, season arena football with the Wranglers. Okay. And then I went down to Houston and played another year of arena football. And by that time, my body was just too beat up. And I was like, hey, I need to think about doing something different.
Right. Well, man, I'll tell you what, while you were at OU, be laying dudes out, man, from that free safety position, man. Oh, I felt bad for some of them boys.
But it's almost kind of like cheating, but at the same time, I mean,
right.
They know what they've got to do. They know what my job is to do. And the way I looked at it is, if you're catching balls across the middle and you're not getting paid for it, then I got to make sure you do pay. So my sure that I could either dislodge them from the ball or get the interception, which a lot of times it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I mean, the fun of playing defense, especially in the defenses that we played while I was there, was they let you kind of basically go for what and be the player that you're supposed to be. So even though I had 3 head coaches in 4 years, the one thing I can say is that for the most part, as far as how we played, there was a standard there, and we tried to live up to that standard.
Nice, man. So you talk about 3 different coaches in 4 years, man. That's a hell of a change, man. Year in, year out. Can you speak about the culture? Was like the difference? Was there a difference in culture between the 3 different coaches, or?
Oh, big time. Coming in with Coach Gibbs, that was something that throughout the recruiting process, I kind of understood as far as how that program was run. So there wasn't really a big surprise when I got on campus. Then Coach Snellenberger came in, and that was a huge change from what we were used to as players. I know offensively, they probably had to make more adjustments than we did defensively. And then with Coach Blake coming in, it almost went close to being back what it was when Coach Gibbs was there. So we went from one extreme to another and then back to the other extreme over the course of pretty much 3 years because Coach Gibbs resigned my sophomore season. And Snellenberg came in my junior season, and Blake came in my senior season.
Nice. Yeah, John Blake, that rest in peace to the man. He was a hell of a recruiter, man. Probably the best recruiter that I've ever seen. I mean, it's weird how it doesn't equate to like the head coaching position, because as a recruiter, you're almost the head coach of like the off season. So it's like, I don't know, just weird how it didn't equate to the field, because he was such a great player, like player coach, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Was he just like, was he tough or like not? Or
yeah, he was tough. And I think that a lot of times what it really comes down to is the people that you hire as far as your coordinators.
Okay. All right.
I necessarily think that Bob Stoops would have the same amount of success that he's had in his career at OU if he didn't have the Chuck Longs and the Manginos and guys like that were running those offenses. And then, you know, having his brother and having Venables for that long. I think that what it really came down to, and I love the two coordinators that John Blake brought in, Dick Winder, gone, Bill Young, he's gone. May they rest in peace. But I don't know if at that point of time, those are the coordinators that he may have needed,
right,
as far as getting the offense and getting the defense where they need to be. So it's a weird deal because, you know, he recruited so well and even continued recruiting well after he left OU. But I think it's a huge thing as far as who your coordinators are and who you put that trust in to get your offense, defense, and special teams going the right way.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. That's evident by the last 5 years at OU with Alex Grinch. Or I guess 3 years he was at OU. It just seemed like the whole staff, especially the last year, they weren't invested in OU. What do you think about the portal? Like, I know they didn't have the portal back then, the transfer portal and the NIL and all this stuff. Do you think a kid should be able to transfer out anytime that he wants, or should there be certain circumstances for him to be able to transfer out?
I think that part of the biggest hypocrisy of college football is when a guy can go from making, you know, $250,000 at Norfolk State, and then have the opportunity to be the head coach at OU and walk in the door making $5 million.
Right.
But he's signed a 3-year deal at, you know, whatever small school he's at, and then we expect the players to go by a different standard than that coach does. You know, my grandmother used to say was good for the goose is good for the gander. So if these can leave whenever they want to without any penalty and take their dream job, well, I mean, if I'm a backup at OU, and let's just say, for example, in any one of the years with a guy like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, if I was that guy's backup, and I know that the only time I'm coming in the game is mop-up duty or he happens to get hurt,
right?
That's the only time that I can play. And for the same coach that's telling whoever it was, Tanner Mordecai or whatever backup that they had that may have transferred and was eligible instantly, then Lincoln Riley leaves with no anything. Like, he's free to go. He's free and clear. And USC will buy out his contract. So, I mean, I think if we're going to try to teach these college athletes to stay the course, then let's make it fair and even for everybody. If a college athlete back in my day was worried about transferring because you had to sit out a year, well, if you're a head football coach and you've got 3 years left on your contract, why shouldn't you have to sit out a year?
Yep. It makes total
sense.
I mean, it does. Yeah.
Right. Or just let them all be free. I mean, let them be all free agents like it is with coaches and like it is with players now. And I think it took so long for people to start looking at college athletes as, I'm not going to say professional, but you're in the money making business when you sign a letter of intent to go to OU. I mean, you're making that university money, and yes, they're benefiting off of it. And in the past, you haven't been able to as the athlete, but now I think people are afraid of athletes having the power to be able to say, "This is what I want to do."
All right. That's really sad. Really, I mean, if you think about it, like, it shouldn't matter to me or you or anybody else how much money somebody is making. Like, it doesn't it doesn't bear anything on my life how much X player makes to go to the University of Oklahoma. Like, I don't care about that.
Right.
And like you said with the coaches, like, what kind of example does that set as a coach? Like, times get tough, you're gonna run. Like, I mean, it's just, I wouldn't want to play for a coach like that. Like, I mean, it takes a great
Right.
man to be a great coach, man. You know, and that's what I don't understand about John Blake, man. That dude was such a great man. Like, I hear so many good things about that guy from everybody I talk to. It's wild. So,
Yeah,
and then, go ahead.
He was an incredible person.
He was, and then we got like this name, image, and likeness, and I'm totally on board with the NIL, because we were saying earlier, about the athletes producing money for these colleges. Man, it is insane how much money these universities bring in off the football programs alone, you know. And there's no reason why a player, like, especially on the level of Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, like, why they can't get a little piece of the pie. I mean, it may not need to come from the university, but they should be able to get compensated somehow, you know. And yeah, they're not quite professional.
And here's the
Go ahead.
Right. And here's the thing about that I look at, and it is what it is. I mean, most major universities have, in some way, shape, or form in their past, whether it be boosters, whether it be whatever, have given benefits to players throughout the years. If you go back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, this stuff was happening. And I think that if you put a true serum in most fans, they would understand and say, yes, Texas, OU, Nebraska, go back to the Big 8, Colorado, Big 12, those teams. Everything was not basically the rules as far as the NCAA, as far as you not being able to compensate athletes. So since we know it's been going on for years, I don't understand what the uproar is now that it became legal. And now all of a sudden we think that these athletes, because they get money, are going to go out there and not produce the way that they would normally produce, because one, it's been going on forever. And two, just because I'm getting $10,000, $50,000 for my name, image, and likeness, my ultimate goal is to go to the NFL, right, and make it where $10,000 is something that I drop off when I go and have a night out on the town, and that's not making or breaking me. You know, I mean, I don't get how people could think that because you're making this money, kind of like with Spencer Rattler, that all of a sudden he's not going to be as dedicated to his craft and what he does. If not anything other than, it's going to make me more dedicated if you pay me to actually play, because in college when I was playing, that's what the goal was, to get paid to play a kid's game. So I don't understand the outrage as far as, oh, this is out of control, these guys are making too much money or this amount of money. Well, we never said that about the university. We don't say that about the University of Texas, which makes more money than any other college football program out there.
Right.
So I just never understood that. I mean, one, this has been happening. I've heard stories and I've talked to guys like Marcus Dupree as far as things that were offered on the recruiting visits. So this isn't anything new. I mean, it's been going on forever. And I think that the average football fan just kind of turned that blind eye to it and was like, yeah, you know what? I know it's happening, but we got Marcus Dupree, so that's all that matters.
Right. Yeah, they ain't bitching when they're winning.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. Like, if you want to stay on top, you have to slide a guy's family $50,000. I mean, that's just the, like you said, it's the way it's been, and it's the way it's always going to be. And now it's just out in the open, and I don't know. It's
Right.
maybe it's just because it's out in the open, and people are like, oh no, we want it to be secret. I don't know. It's crazy.
I I think that has a lot to do with the image of, you know, probably more our generation as far as us, and then our parents, as how they look and view college football, like the innocence of it and the amateurism of it. And these guys are just going out there and they're doing it for the love of the game. Well, this is 2022. I mean, there are very few football players that go to OU that are not looking at the potential of saying to themselves, I can go make money off of doing what I'm doing right now. And yes, I can still love the game, but want to make money, just like I can still love going to work every day, but I do appreciate my paycheck at the end of the week.
All right. For sure, man. For sure. Like, yeah, it's good. You'll be hard pressed to find anybody that will do their job for free. It doesn't matter what job it is. You'll be hard pressed to find anybody that, yeah, I'll give you 40 hours, but don't worry about paying me. It's pretty
Right.
wild. Yeah.
And the notion of your scholarship is always perplexed me, because as a high school athlete, you know, you're out there pretty much every week displaying your craft and your talents. And if a school is interested in you, all that work that you put in high school is what basically pays for your college scholarship. It's no different than if you played the piano, or if you played the flute, or you were in the marching band. I mean, or if you're a straight A student and you get all A's, and you pretty much get a full ride to Tulsa, which is one of the hardest schools to get into. I mean, those kids from the 9th grade to the 12th grade, no matter what they do in high school, they're basically on debut to show that they should earn a scholarship to a university. So when people tell me, oh, well, they paid for your school, well, yeah, they did, but I had to do something to make myself valuable enough for that university to say, we're going to let you come here for free.
Yep.
It's not like they just walked up one day and just said, hey, you know what? You look like you could ball.
Right. For sure. For sure. Yeah.
I mean, right now that are striving for a 4.0 as far as their 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year in high school. And that means something to them, because they know at the end of the day, they're going to have their choice of schools that they can go to. Well, I can't tell that kid that everything that you did from 13, 14 years old until you're 18 doesn't mean anything because I'm giving you a scholarship. You should be lucky. No, that kid worked his tail off to be in that position to say, I'm a 4.0 valedictorian student. And if I want to go to Harvard, guess what? They'll pay for me to go there.
Right.
And I don't think that. I think that when people look, especially at football players, you should be lucky that OU wanted you to come there. No, not necessarily. OU should be lucky that I chose to go there because I put that work in. And it's nothing against the university. It is, I tried to make myself as marketable as I could be at a younger age, which is very difficult at 13, 14. You start saying, oh, I want to go to college and play football. But I did what I had to do to make myself marketable, not just for OU, but for every other school that recruited me. Just like the guy that's a valedictorian. I mean, he's not just saying he wants to have 4.0 for nothing. I mean, he wants to go to school for free, just like everybody wants to.
Right. Yeah, it's everything is earned, man. It's like I think the scholarships now, they actually do like a quarterly review of them to see if they want to continue giving a ball player or a pianist or whatever. They review it every 3-4 months to make sure if they want to even keep going with the scholarship. Things are a lot different with scholarships now than they used to be.
I think you lost me for a second there.
Just for a sec. No. We're back. Maybe. Are you there? Oh, yeah, we're good. My internet might be messing up a little bit. Hopefully we'll be all right. Yeah, so like so you said you scrimmaged against Gerald Moore in that was in high school then?
Yep, both me and his senior year. Me and Gerald Moore actually roommated together our freshman year, and we both drove together in a beat down jalopy that barely made it to Norman from Houston.
Nice.
Oh yeah, that drive should usually be about 6.5 hours. I think it took us about 12 because everything broke on that car on the way up. So.
That's good stuff, man. So yeah, Gerald Moore, that was half of Thunder and Lightning there. James Allen. That was a pretty sweet combo right there, man. I really loved watching them guys play ball.
Well, I hated practicing against them. I can tell you.
Well, I tell you what, man, is the offensive line too back then, man. That's what I don't get, man. You guys had so much talent, dude. So much talent on those squads, man. It blows my mind how the win column, it didn't reflect it. But top to bottom, that roster was filled with NFL talent, man.
Oh, definitely. I mean, just alone in the classes that were either a year before me or a year after me. I mean, from Kelly Gregg, Martin Chase, Cedric Jones, Steven Alexander. I mean, there were a lot of guys, Wendell Davis, Darius Johnson, that left. Tyrell Peters backed up Ray Lewis for a few years. Yeah, we were, I think, just a quarterback maybe away from really being pretty good. And a lot of times that position gets a lot of heat, and sometimes that's not warranted, and it gets a lot of praise, and sometimes people don't look at the rest of the team. But I think we offensively had the talent to get a lot of things done and accomplished. But as you see right now, I mean, when you got that dynamic guy at quarterback, it could change dramatically what your season looks like. I mean, the Burrow kid in Cincinnati, I mean, he basically made that franchise look a lot different. Now, yeah, he's got a really good receiver to go along with what he's doing, but
right.
When we get guys like Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield and Jalen Hurts, and even to an extent, Spencer and the kid that just left to USC, it makes your program a lot different. Jason Whites and guys like that.
Yeah.
He's been, I don't want to say lucky because you got to recruit these guys, but for the most part, over 20, 21 years, they pretty much hit when they needed to find that kid at quarterback to help them be as successful as they are.
Very true, man. Like the last 20 years, the Sooners fan base has been spoiled at the QB position. Like it's insane, man. Like to go from like, no disrespect to Garrick McGee or Eric Moore or Justin Fuentes, like no disrespect at all to them guys. They were ballers, Brandon Daniels, but like the caliber of QBs we've had since 2000 have just been right there at the top, man. It's crazy.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt. I mean, and it's almost became, and I think it probably is, if you look at the just not the Heisman's, but the guys and the productivity that they've had. I mean, you could say OU is almost like quarterback U, and not have a lot of people that would argue you down the other way, because just the track record, Bradford, White, Murray, Mayfield, Hurts. I mean, that list is a pretty impressive list when you think of the offense not really missing a beat for the most part with some of these guys that come in and had to step up. I would say that we would rival any university as far as the last 20 years and looking at the quarterbacks that we've had in this program.
Yeah, like we got QBU, we got RBU, we got tight end U, we got linebacker U, safety U. it's like everything you at Oklahoma,
Exactly.
man. It's pretty amazing. Like in the last 100 years of OU football, they've had 3 losing seasons. It's just insane, man. Such
Hey, and one of the I look at with the success individually.
There you are.
Yep, I think I'm back.
All right. You're talking about the individual
but
success?
Yeah, the individual part is one thing, but I think that at this point right now, OU fans want to see a title, and I can't blame them for that. Yes, we've had individual success at a lot of different positions, but I can get and understand the frustrations that the OU fans have with saying there's not been a title since 2000. Just as if you're a Cowboy fan and you're saying there hasn't been a title since 95. But I would just ask OU fans to be kind of patient on that because, one, those type of years and seasons are not like consistent with a lot of programs. And I know Alabama's on their run right now, and Nick Saban's got those guys rocking and rolling. I get that. But that is like not the norm. I mean, Clemson was really good for a while, and the last 2 years they've looked pretty average. They're still good. I mean, they can go out and beat any team that they play, but there's just not that dominance that they used to have a couple of years ago as opposed to right now. So I would just ask the fans to be patient and let this process work itself out with a new coach, especially a guy who we're familiar with because he's already been here, and kind of see where this thing goes because I think he's going to do a great job recruiting. I've seen him recruit. I know him, and he's got a lot of energy. He's a heck of a recruiter. So he's going to bring talent in here. And now he's probably got more areas that he can pick from that he didn't have while he was here at OU before. So it's going to be an interesting deal, but I just want fans to kind of be patient and let this process happen because the last thing that I know Brent Venables wants to do is make excuses for why we're not winning titles. And that is one of his goals. I can tell you that 100%.
Yeah. Quite the difference in philosophies between Coach V and Coach Riley there that went to USC. It just, I don't know. I'm not a parent or a player. I'm just a fan, but it just seems like he could have handled that. I mean, I understand it's just a business and, I think you owe your players at least, just some kind of thing, some explanation, because I mean, that's not a decision you make in 10, 12 hours, that's like a life-changing decision right there. So it just blows me away, how he handled that. What do you think about that? Do you think he was kind of like sly and kind of cowardly about it, or?
It's strange because I had no idea that the week after Colorado that Gary Gibbs was going to come in to the Santee Lounge and resign. And then it was summertime when Snellenberger resigned / got fired.
Right.
I think that for the players, you become kind of numb to, I would say, either success or losing, because in the back of your head, if you're losing, that guy is probably going to be gone. And on the flip side of it, if you're successful and there's a coach that's charismatic and he may be looking at bigger things, then you in the back of your mind know that if you hear that news, it won't shock you that someone took another job. So from a player standpoint, you could lose your coach one or two ways, but for me, it didn't really surprise me because I knew what Gary Gibbs was going through, and I knew his 3 demons were Kansas State, Nebraska, and Texas, and a little bit of Colorado mixed in. And if you if you can't beat those teams, they're going to look at you as a failure, and they're probably going to get rid of you. So it didn't surprise me or shock me, and I didn't feel like I was caught in my feelings like he needed to come address the entire team before he went into that lounge and resigned, basically, effective at the end of the season. I think it hits fans a little bit more than players.
Okay.
Because they're not on the inside and they're not hearing some of the stuff that we hear as players. So it's just like with the kid from the coach from Notre Dame, he leaves and he goes to LSU.
Oh, yeah.
I think those players knew in a way that if the right job opened up, he'd be out.
For sure. Yeah, that's it's crazy, man. I played football up until high school. I didn't go to any college. I messed my knee up pretty good my sophomore year, but like I guess like you said, with the fans, we don't get to see what's going on the inside and what kind of like split is in the locker room, if there is a split, or what's going on in the coach's personal life, because players have more insight to a coach's personal life than we do. And it's crazy. It seemed like there was kind of a split there at OU when like Spencer Rattler and the Caleb Williams thing was going on. It seemed like some of the locker room was over here and some of it was over here. And like, it didn't seem like we had 10 wins last year. It just felt like a 7-4 season
right.
Almost.
Right. And one of the craziest things is, one year I had a defense coordinator named Tom Hayes, and Mac Brown's brother was on that staff, Watson Brown.
All right.
And, when Coach Gibbs resigned, there were players, it's crazy how this works, that want to see Coach Hayes become the head coach, or players that want to see Coach Brown become the head coach. And the division, just on the fact of who would be the head coach, was very evident as far as the players in that locker room. Most of the offensive guys obviously wanted Watson Brown's brother, Watson Brown, to be the head coach. And most of the defensive players wanted Tom Hayes to be the head coach. So, yeah, it's a different dynamic in that locker room that I don't think most fans really understand, because, one, you're probably around your position coach 95% of the time.
Right.
There were not a lot of times that I just had a meeting with Coach Gibbs. And Coach just happened to be the defensive coordinator my first 2 years there. So you get to know them a lot more. And especially when it's a coordinator, as a player, you're happy if they get an opportunity to leave and get another job as a head coach. But it's a little bit different, I guess, when you talk about the head coach, because that's the guy that signed off on you to bring you in. So the feeling is a little bit different if that person leaves. But as a player, you just know there's that potential either way it goes, that person may want to be someplace else.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think of somebody wanting to leave OU, but I mean, that's from a fan's perspective. I just think of OU as the greatest university ever. I mean, just not in football, but basketball, softball, gymnastics, baseball. They're good at everything, man. So on the recruiting.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
There were people that were shocked that Kelly would leave Notre Dame. I mean,
yeah,
that's the job that, if you look at Notre Dame and LSU, I mean, the tradition, it's not even comparable as far as football goes. But,
right.
I mean, sometimes people like that warmer weather and being on the boat, crawfish and, shrimp etouffee. I don't know.
I keep hearing about this shrimp etouffee. You're about the third guy that's told me about that. I'm going to have to try some of that out, man.
Oh, that ain't no joke.
Nice. Yeah, Rufus Alexander swears by it.
Oh, yeah. So, it ain't bad.
On the recruiting wise, was there like did OU like stand out more than anybody else, or was like there any big difference from OU and the other schools?
No, as a matter of fact, I never played defense in high school.
Oh, really?
I was at one of those larger schools. yeah, that didn't have two-way guys. I mean, you had to really, really be special to play both sides of the ball
Nice.
at my high. And I guess I wasn't that special, but uh, I played quarterback my senior year, running back my junior year, and receiver my sophomore year. And I initially committed to Syracuse and took a visit up there. And as a matter of fact, they were getting ready to play in the Fiesta Bowl against Colorado. So
Nice.
during my visit, they were still playing. And there was another kid out of Aldine that played quarterback, a shorter kid that went there. And the first thing that they did once he got there is they moved him to defensive back.
Mm.
So, I asked Coach Pasqualoni, am I the quarterback as far as me coming in? And will I get a fair shot at basically competing for this position? And he said, well, we'll see how it works out once you get here.
Mm.
And he was one of the schools that actually recruited me as a quarterback. Colorado, and it's crazy, Bob Simmons was the guy that recruited me there.
Oh, nice.
And when he said, you know what, we want you to be a receiver, and I said, well, look, I'm not going to Colorado. Then the head coach calls me and it's like, hey, you're our quarterback. And I was like, nah, that's not what Coach Simmons said. But the schools that were kind of straight up, OU was one of them. UCLA was another one that just said, hey, look, we want you to play defense. And if you want to have a better shot at going to the NFL, because at that point in time, there was no such thing as a true run pass guy at quarterback.
Right.
So I looked at those options and I said, at least these guys are being straight up. And once I got to OU and saw the Houston connection that was there with all the players, it made that decision real easy.
Nice. There are quite a few players from H-Town that have played at OU and continue to. That is a nice connection down there, man.
Oh, no doubt. No
so
doubt.
Like, would you say so you were a quarterback, receiver, and what was it, running back too in high school? So so you were pretty athletic. Do you think that's probably why OU wanted you at free safety, because how athletic you were?
Yeah, I think that in the past, especially me being a former high school coach, you're going to want your defense to look right in high school, but you know that you got to score points. And you may have to play a kid that is not necessarily a quarterback on the next level, just to make sure that you put yourself in a position where you score. So that right there is something that I think OU needs to almost go back to. When you look at some of the guys from the 90s and 2000s, like Austin Box played quarterback at Enid.
Oh, yeah.
And then he goes plays linebacker. A lot of the guys that I played with on defense, Larry Bush was a quarterback at Ada. Darius Johnson was a running back in Terrell, Texas. A lot of those guys were offensive players that were just really athletic to help that offense in high school. And then guys like John Blake could see that they may help us on defense more so than they would help us on offense. And some of the offensive players that you may have had on this might disagree, but you want your better players to be on defense in the past. Now, today, you see a little bit difference as far as the caliber of guy that plays offense. But if you want a good defense, go to a high school that's winning games, that's got some good athletes that play offense, and teach them how to be DBs and teach them how to be linebackers, because those guys are usually the ones in high school that are your better players. And now it's a little bit of a transition because people are looking for that one quarterback or that one running back or that one receiver. But defensively, maybe that kid isn't a really good quarterback at the level that you may want him to be at OU, but he can doggone sure play safety.
Right. Yeah, Corey Warren said that you want your best athlete in that back end there at safety usually. There's always been some great
Yeah.
athletes at safety, man. Like Ed Reed, Brian Dawkins is probably my favorite safety of all time. Like that dude used to bring it, man. I love
Mhm.
watching Brian Dawkins play football, man.
Oh yeah, and you got to make up for everybody else's mistakes because the only thing behind you is a touchdown.
That's it, man. That's it. We play last year we had a Red River shootout 7-on-7 flag football game that we played for a charity. It was OU fans versus Texas fans. And I told the safeties, I'm like, don't ever let anybody get behind you. That's all I ask. And like first time somebody got behind was a touchdown. They started like 3 touchdowns on our safety and quarterback threw back to back pick sixes. It was a terrible game, man. But I was like, do not let anybody get past you. But I guess they didn't understand that part of it, I guess.
That's easier said than done.
It
I can
really
tell you
is,
that for
though.
sure.
Especially when you got like 3-4 guys running fly routes. You're like, what am I supposed to do here? It's pretty wild.
Yep.
So, man, I'm probably going to be getting out of here, but I like to end on a who, a what, and a why. So, for the who, I'm going to go with who was your like the toughest guy? Like you just rocked his world and he just got up like nothing was like nothing happened. You ever have a receiver like that or tight end or?
I had a running back named Clinton Childs, and I hit him my senior year, and I really felt that I laid the wood to him, and I bounced off of him like one of those little small rubber balls that we play jack.
Right.
And he's about 230.
Oh, damn.
Him and probably Rashawn Salam were 2 guys that I really didn't enjoy hitting because even when you felt like you got them, they would just look at you like nah, little man, you ain't really did nothing yet.
That old Rashawn Salam, he was a beast, man. He was like Adrian Peterson, back in the day. That guy was a monster.
That he was.
He was a Buffalo, right? Up in Colorado.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, he was real good, man. So for the what, I'm gonna go, what is your definition of success?
Oh, I've always felt that doing things the right way is the definition of success. And even as a coach, I've never worried about winning and losing. If we're doing things the right way, that kind of stuff takes care of itself. But when you're not doing things the right way and you're cutting corners and trying to do it the short way instead of doing it the right way, it usually comes back to bite you in the end.
Yeah, it does. It does, man. That's probably about the most true statement you could make right there. And so why the game of football?
Originally I thought I was a basketball player, but then just because of the height situation and looking at probably some of the things that I looked at, especially in Houston, where basketball is really starting to come along. I wasn't a 6'4" guard or 6'5" guard, and I said to myself, you know what? At 6 feet, maybe I could give this football thing a try, and we'll see how this works itself out. But once I started doing it, there was a discipline to it that I believe maybe wrestling has that no other sport has, because wrestlers going to a sweaty room and it's 155 degrees, it seems like,
Yeah.
and practice, and football practice and the stuff that you have to do in the heat and the cold. It's not a fun practice situation to say that you're going to play for 48 minutes in high school or 60 minutes in college. I mean, basketball, everybody can score. Football, everybody can't score. That offensive lineman, there's got to be a miracle for him to get a touchdown.
Yeah.
So just that team and the work and the blood and sweat that you do with those other guys. Once I got into it, I got hooked and loved it for the entire time that I played it. So I would say the why is just the teamwork and the camaraderie and the relationships that you build.
Nice, man. Nice. That's one of the things my pop taught me about the game of football was it's like it's more it's more about the relationships you build. Building a brotherhood, with your coaches, coordinators, or whatever, your teammates, mostly your teammates. I mean, you still build good relationships with your coaches, but you're closer with your teammates, I believe, because you're actually on the field with them, And I don't know about you, but I used to hate playing in the cold. Oh, God, I used to hate that. You get lit up in the cold. Oh, it hurts for a minute.
Yeah, the thing that's really different, especially Green Bay and then up in Canada, is once you get used to it, it's fun because when you see teams from like Dallas or Houston or whatever come up and play, and they're out there just shivering and they're cold, it's like, well, I'm out here in a short sleeve shirt and it's 25 degrees. It doesn't bother you, but
right.
It takes a little bit of getting used to for sure.
Nice. When you were up in Canada, did you run into Terry Ray?
Yeah, I played on the same team with Terry Ray.
Nice, man. Yeah, I talked to him a few weeks ago, man. Yeah, really, really cool dude, man. Really cool. Oh yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you.
He'd bring the wood too.
Oh yeah, man. Like him, and I mean, I love watching them old clips like you, him, Jason Belser. Boy, Jason Belser used to be like a missile, man. He was fun to watch, man. But can I get a Boomer Sooner on my way out the door?
Boomer Sooner in Texas definitely still sucks, brother.
Still sucks. All right, thanks, Anthony. And are you gonna be at the spring game?
Yes, I will be down there.
Nice, man. Maybe we can link up or something. That'd be cool.
That'll work it.
All right, man. We'll talk